Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Albers, and welcome to This Week in Anderson on the Big Guy Sports Podcast. And as always, I'm joined with my co-host, Steve Ellis. And Steve, tell you what, I'm really excited to have our next guest, just a multiple sports star at Anderson High School. And we got to witness it firsthand because went to school with him. So excited to talk to Jimmy tonight.
Well, I will tell you this. I'm going to ask him this question is because before in high school, before practices or games, I'm pretty sure he either ate glass or nails because he was that tough and that competitive.
I totally
loved playing with Jimmy, and he was just an ultra competitor.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've not only known Jimmy from just when we were at the high school, but good friends with Moose was good friends with Tony Diana.
Yep,
Tony,
the whole
his brother,
Diana family.
The whole Diana family. So we've known the dynamics of that whole thing. So as we said, we're joined here by Jimmy Diana, and Jimmy, thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. It's great to be here. Glad to be asked, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And let's talk about growing up in Anderson. What side you grew up on, and what it was like growing up as a kid in Anderson.
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, the neighborhood that we lived in. I mean, you were there.
Yep.
I remember as a kid growing up playing baseball in the cul-de-sac.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, basically, Mom would go off to work, and we'd have our chores, get your chores done, and then we were either at Summit Swim Club all day, or we were in the cul-de-sac playing baseball, and sometimes it was with a hard ball.
Right.
Sometimes it was a tennis ball.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you how many times Dad had to replace windows in the neighborhood. And, and the dents in the cars, and I feel bad for the neighbors. But and then when it came to soccer, I mean, I grew up. My very first soccer team was Hutch Sporting Goods.
Hutch,
yeah, remember them?
Yeah.
And our practices were in Buzzy Coleman's backyard.
Buzzy Coleman, yeah.
Wow.
He was.
Wasn't he your neighbor?
He lived a couple houses down, and I remember his dad coming up and saying, "Hey, I'm going to start a soccer team, and would like Jim to come and play, and it'll be kids in the neighborhood." And it was great. I mean, and we were 5 years old.
Right.
And we would just practice in his backyard, and games were at Summit Elementary School and Fireside and Behind the Fire. I mean, you couldn't have picked a better neighborhood for kids to grow up in.
Who'd you hang with in the neighborhood?
Oh, who didn't we hang with? It was everybody. I mean, between Buzzy and then it was Chuck Darvin. Remember
Chuck Darvin? Yes.
And Don Marcello and Chris Sprinkle, and then you had and then I'm sure you came down. I know. And came down and played football. We would tackle football in Buzzy's backyard between the 2 yards. I mean, who didn't we hang with? We were always, and it was such a great neighborhood. In those times, you were safe. I mean, we would go up to ride our bikes up to Summit and play pickup games up there, and
all day.
Today, you just can't do it. It seems like.
Well, you had it though. All you had to do literally is go down I don't know how many yards to Summit Swim Club. I mean, you're right. Cut through the little woods right there.
Oh yeah. There was a path in our backyard that led through the woods to Summit Swim Club.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Nice.
And it was, and for us, so you just ride your bike over to Summit Swim Club. And,
perfect.
And we would hang there, pretty much all day. We'd play tennis, and if we weren't playing baseball or we'd play soccer, we would play pickup soccer games in the side yard. We'd play pickle for hours in the side yard growing up as kids. We always found something to do. That Tim Hankey lived across the street.
Hankey,
so he was a great neighbor.
Was Freddie Crace over there?
Freddie Crace was up the street.
Nice call.
Freddie was up the street in one of the cul-de-sacs. I think he was either on Don Marcello Street or behind Donnie Street.
Well, they were both good friends.
Bill Ramirez lived in the cul-de-sac.
Bill Ramirez,
Lois View, so he was there.
Oh, he did before he moved down by Maddox?
Yeah.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
We would, when in junior high, we would leave for the bus in the morning early, and we would play football waiting for the bus.
Awesome.
We'd have a full game going on.
So I don't know if you did or not, but when in high school, I don't know if you did or not, but Chris Sprinkle and some of those guys were. We would go back to and cut through our subdivision and go on whatever that is, Bethany and Laval or whatever it was. And on that corner, I thought you came over, but we had a bunch of guys that would just go to that bus stop, and it was me, Jimmy Bell, Sprinkle, it might have been Mark, I don't know, but all of us met, like you said, we met somewhere and played football before school started.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Hey, George Brand lived around the
George
corner.
was another one, yeah.
Rich Farr was on Sprinkle Street, I think. His
he was.
I mean, it was such a, I mean, the kids, we could always find a pickup.
Absolutely.
Always find a pickup game. And then we would practice at Nagel. So we were able to ride our bikes from Den Allen across over 8 Mile Road into the other side of Summit and go through the woods to Nagel Park. And I mean that's how we grew up. We rode our bikes everywhere until the mopeds came along.
Yes, the mopeds.
Nice.
Everybody wanted a moped.
Oh yeah.
Is this like the 10th Street Summit Estates?
It is. I planned that.
What the hell?
But it just shows you that this side,
he's so biased. It's unbelievable.
States is the best side, man. I'm telling you.
I grew up on the other side, and it's like Siberia or something.
You got to know what you're doing, Steve.
Yeah, I guess.
I think who else lived up there. What's his name? He was a quarterback at McNick.
Mark McDonald
lived up there, and I think there was a Kavanaugh kid that lived up there.
Sean or Brad?
Mike Kavanaugh.
Mike
that lived up that way too.
Played on CG.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I mean, we would play. I mean, again, we'd leave early for the bus, and we would pick up football games, and you'd be sweating getting on the bus, and we'd go hang out in school.
Phil Cooney was another one that lived there.
Bill Cooney, nice.
Bill Cooney lived up there, and then Greg Thomas, they lived in that same cul-de-sac. I mean, it was just
good.
A lot.
Good people over there.
It was really, really good. I mean, going back, the neighborhood was fantastic. You couldn't have grown up in a better neighborhood, at least for me.
Yeah,
totally agree.
And a lot of great memories with those guys.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about your youth sports before we get into high school. So when you started playing sports, not at the bus stop, but what sports did you play, and what teams were you on?
What didn't I play? I swam for Summit.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
All right, there you go.
I dove for a little bit. I was part of the diving team when they first got started, but then it was baseball and soccer, and then basketball. And basketball really was kind of late for me. I played a little bit of Kiwanis is kind of when I started, but it was baseball. Bill Bruner.
Yeah, Bill Bruner.
Bill Bruner, Philip Belmont. So Phil Belmont lived up there. So Mr. Bruner, Mr. Belmont, Mr. Marcello coached our team.
Okay.
I played. Eventually, Chris Newton came along and played on that team, and the Nimos came along. The Huxtables came along.
There you go.
Eventually, it was. So I grew up kind of playing with those guys too.
Yep.
And so it was a mix of Anderson and Turpin.
Yeah.
As kids, we kind of grew up, and then soccer. It was Hutch Sporting Goods. We started out, and then it was Sailor Shooters. Remember John Green? John Burge.
John Burge. Yeah.
His dad was a horse trainer at the park down there on the river. River Downs, and Sailor Shooter. That was a horse or the jockey. They sponsored our team.
Wow.
It was just, again, so that's kind of, and then eventually it was narrowed down eventually to basically soccer, baseball and basketball were the three.
You didn't play football?
I did. I played 2 years. I played 7th grade, I think was the first year you could play. I don't think Anderson, I don't know if they had a 6th grade team or not. I think it was 7th and 8th grade at the junior at Anderson. I played for Mr. Griffiths was the coach. Bruce. Yeah. And so I played for him 2 years at Anderson, and then
was Eads on there too?
Eads was part of that. Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, I think he was part of that. And then we played at Forest Hills Junior School.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. So as you got into junior high or middle school.
Yeah.
So you were at Anderson Middle School for what, 6th and 7th?
And then 8th grade, we went to Forest Hills.
Yeah, because we were the last 8th grade class at the middle school, and you were a year below us.
Yep.
And so how was that transition for you going over to Turpin Middle School as the junior high?
It wasn't that difficult because I still had a lot of those guys that I was buddies with because
you were playing sports.
I was playing sports with them.
So you got to see them.
I was playing travel soccer at the time too, so I was playing for the Shamrocks. I played for New Sash. Rick Sharp's dad was the coach, and then eventually I went over to play travel soccer with the Queen City Shamrocks. And then, so I was playing. I knew all the guys, and so it wasn't a really hard transition. But you were only there 1 year, so you couldn't really hold on to really anything.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed. I mean, to me, just on the outside, it seemed like it would be a little weird, not being at the Anderson Middle School and how all that.
Right.
It was. I mean, we had great memories at Anderson. I mean, walking the halls in the old gym that was there, the old auditorium that was there.
Well, and we all grew up with older siblings, so we were there even before we got there.
Oh yeah. You remember walking down the hall? You got your Anderson book bag.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't a book bag.
It was the orange one.
Yes. Orange was the strap. Yeah.
So, oh my gosh.
I know.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Heavier than heck.
Oh yeah.
I remember that.
So all right. So before we get into your high school days playing, one thing that I want to make sure to remind everybody is that you graduated in '87.
Correct.
And 5 years later, which is pretty impressive, 5 years later, you were inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Tell us about that experience.
Look, I remember getting a call just inviting me to participate, and it was such an honor. I think it was Mr. Yaks that nominated me to be a part of it, and I think it was probably one of the first classes.
They were just starting to amp it up,
Leslie Roberto might have been in that class, and Leslie Harris, I think, was in that class.
Okay.
So it was a relatively new class.
Yeah.
So I don't even recall. I just remember we went to a basketball game.
Yep.
And at the halftime at the basketball game, they announced it, handed out awards.
Yep.
I'm not sure if there was even a dinner or any type of ceremony.
There was a little get together in the cafeteria for families and stuff, because I remember that night.
Yeah.
And but I mean, the impressive thing here, Danny, is that I don't know what the criteria was, but only 5 years removed from.
That's incredible.
A lot of people take years to get nominated and to get in. So that's pretty. And here's the point. Here's some of the stats on Jimmy, especially obviously in soccer, all league 3 years, all city 3 years, which
that'll do it.
People, that'll do it. That's it. Right there.
Right there, I'm done.
All right. He was the Enquirer and the Cincinnati Post Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Unbelievable. All right. And then one thing that is like so incredibly rare is that he was also All-American.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's incredible.
There. Yeah. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
What a great career in all sports, but especially soccer. So let's talk about soccer.
Sure.
Who your coach was and what that experience was like.
Well, look, it started early on, though. I had great coaches growing up. I was very fortunate to play for Ray Carr at the Shamrocks. I mean, he was an Irishman that taught the game.
Yeah.
And then, and even from Mr. Sharp and Mr. Kuhlman, they gave you the basics, right?
Yeah.
And then when you went off to high school, it was I played for Joe Moon, my freshman.
Joe Moon, I was with you.
Yeah.
We had a great year. We were like 14-2.
Really great year. And then Jack Hermans came in.
Yeah.
And Jack was he changed the game for me. He was so particular about the game, and I truly got a great understanding of how the game should be played. And he taught us to play a European style. Mm-hmm. And it was awesome, but the skill work, it was all about the skill work.
Yeah.
The conditioning happened during the skill work. We didn't just, a lot of teams you'd get there and you do your warm-ups and your stretches. Mm-hmm. We did that as part of our skill work. Yeah. But it was all ball work, ball work. And I think that's going from that elevated it. And then I was fortunate to play with some great summer teams too.
Okay.
Greg Deutsch, who owns Soccer Village.
Yeah.
I played for him for a couple years during the summertime, but it was really my career at Anderson and playing for Jack.
That's incredible. So how good were your teams?
I was going to get ready to say, man.
Well, the teams are fantastic. I mean, I was just one player on a really great team, particularly my junior year. I mean, we were ranked in the state, and we had an unfortunate ending to the season, but the guys that were around me, they elevated everybody. I mean, from Tim Hankey, Mark Lobring was a star, and Nazarenes were a star, and I mean,
Brian Sullivan, the goalie.
Yeah. I mean, Sully as a keeper.
Yeah.
I mean,
willing to break his nose a few times.
And I feel bad because I think I busted him up one time in practice.
Oh my gosh!
We were working on.
Yeah.
I mean, I would stay after practice and work.
Yeah.
And Brian would stay after practice. He always wanted extra practice.
Yeah.
So I was willing to continue to take shots, and Coach would hang with us, and we would do certain drills. And Brian and I came together one time on a collision, and it was it wasn't good. For either of us.
But that wasn't the first, and I don't think it was the last for him.
No. We had some really good players. Even my brother John was.
Yep.
How cool
John
was
that?
Good.
And, Gary Geis.
Gary Geis. I mean, Benedetto, Teddy. I mean, and Wayne, Mark's younger brother, came along, and I mean, there was just a whole crew of kids.
So, you were going to say, Danny, you got to play with Johnny?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We played a couple years together.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I did not know that. How did I not know that? That's awesome.
He was a year. He was 2 years younger.
Because didn't his senior year he switch over to football?
He did. Yeah.
Okay.
He did. He switched over to play football, and I'm not sure why.
Because you weren't around.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Well, he was always the Me Too kid, because he could stand there.
Exactly.
Me Too.
Yeah.
And so maybe once I graduated, he finally found his voice, and he's like, I'm not playing soccer. I'm going to play football like my other brother.
Yeah. That's funny.
But those teams, I'm really fortunate that I played with some great players, and some of those guys went on to play college. I mean, Tim and I think the Geises and Benedettos, I think they may have gone down to UC and played. I know Tim did. I know Mark was up at Miami playing some ball. I think Wayne was over at Indiana and played.
Yeah, that's right.
But also thinking about that, not only were you guys good then, but the teams before you were really good too. I mean, before Herman's got there, right? They were good. All those guys. So
Coach Philpott had a really
because the culture was set kind of before Herman's got there, and you guys just elevated it to a new level.
I remember as a kid going to the Anderson football games when I was in elementary school or junior high, and then also going to the soccer games and telling myself, I want to play high school sports.
Right.
I want to play high school soccer. I want to play high school baseball.
Yeah.
I remember that as a kid growing up.
Yeah. Well, we've said a lot of these conversations we've said about, unfortunately back then football wasn't very good, and some of the players, including yourself, that if you would have played football, i.e. the one player we haven't talked about, playing in the defensive side, Rob McClellan.
Oh yeah.
I mean, think about him in pads.
Yeah.
On the football field.
A lot of those guys.
He was a beast.
Yeah.
I mean, we had several guys on the soccer
just didn't
team
take any crap from anybody.
I mean, Rob would just walk around like this. And he was one of those guys that if you were in his way, he's going to
knock you down.
Robbie was he was a beast back there.
He's a good guy to have on your side.
We had such a strong defensive line. I mean, I think that was anchored by Robbie and Tim.
Tim
was in the center.
Yeah.
And both of those played center, and they were so solid in that lineup down the middle. It was great.
I remember your battles with Nick and Sean Schaefer. Those are the ones I remember.
And I grew up playing with Sean. Sean and I played travel ball together for the Shamrocks.
Yeah.
We grew up together.
He was good.
Yes, he was.
He was really good.
Sean was good. And you got, again, on the Turpin side, you had Bobby Kramer and Brad Campbell. They won state the year after.
Right.
In 87, I think they won state. They had a great core of guys on that team as well. And with Robbie Martello was over there.
Robbie Martello.
And and we all, at the time, Queen City Soccer Club was a club on the east side.
Yeah.
All of us played
together.
Tim, Hankey, and those guys played for the Queen City Musketeers. We were the Shamrocks.
Musketeers. Yeah.
There were the Rockets. That's where Reed Johnson played.
Reed Johnson.
Reed played for the Rockets.
Yeah.
It was a feeding ground for Anderson and Turpin. Was the Queen City Soccer Club.
Okay,
that's crazy.
It was. We used to play over Julius Park. Was the home field. Remember
wow.
The old Julius, not the new Julius.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
In the back.
In the back, yeah.
Where you still had the cornfield.
Yeah.
Where the tennis courts are now. It was a cornfield.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it was in the back, and then there was a path that took you to Nagel.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
That was our home field.
That's crazy.
Was where the Queen City, and it was great because when we were all playing at home, it was one Queen City team after another. So the younger guys got to go watch the older guys.
Yeah,
that's cool.
But you guys were so good, Jimmy, and I remember us, going to the games, especially the big games, the St. X's and the Turpins and the McNicks. How awesome was that? Because in soccer, to have the stands full like that,
it was great. I mean, you fed off the crowd.
Yeah.
I mean, the excitement, the adrenaline. Look, there was, for me, I don't know about the other guys, but there were always nerves before every single game.
Sure.
It didn't matter.
Yeah,
it didn't matter. There was always nerves. It didn't matter who you were playing. But once once you got out there and once the whistle blew and the game started, you just let natural instincts take over and you play. And it was so cool to play in that environment because it helped me as I got older and eventually went off to college and was able to play. I mean, it was to play in front of that crowd. In fact, I played in bigger crowds at times at Anderson than I did in college.
I can remember, and I don't know if this is like your senior year, but I can remember some of the games up top in the Forest Hills Soccer Stadium.
So packed.
That not only was it packed, but they were like lining the fence. For some of those
Anderson
games.
Turpin games. Anderson
McNick.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, and we've talked about this too, Jimmy, where some of those Anderson St. X games where out of 22 players on the field, like 15 of them were Anderson residents.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's
right. Yeah. Absolutely, for sure. And even going to play at St. X. I mean, what an environment to play games in over there too. I just remember going over there and playing a couple times throughout my career. Cool.
Weren't they one of the first ones to have turf field for soccer?
I think they were.
Yeah.
I think they were. Although there was a picture that was taken, and it was at the St. X game, and I was on the ground, and there was a St. X player standing up, and that St. X player was a buddy of mine that I played travel soccer with. And I'm like, son of a gun, it's in the newspaper. There's a picture of me on the ground. What's going on? Yeah,
that's great.
And I still have that picture in a binder.
As you should. That's cool.
It keeps me humble.
So let's talk a little bit about baseball. You played baseball too, and I can't remember if this is right or wrong. Was Heimball the coach then, or was it Hannikin?
I played I started out with both. There was Heimball, there was Hannikin, and then there was Lynn Moore. I think Lynn was maybe my senior year, sophomore, junior, senior year.
Okay.
Lynn Moore was.
He lasted that long? I didn't know he lasted.
He was like 4 years.
Because I know he had Moose and Tony.
Yeah, and he was. I came up my sophomore year, and Lynn brought me up towards the middle of the season. Sophomore year.
What did you play, Jimmy? I forget.
Third base.
Okay.
And I played a little shortstop, but mostly it was third base.
Okay.
Yeah. And I grew up playing shortstop. I grew up playing infield. I didn't play much outfield. I pitched a little bit.
Okay.
But third base seemed to be the spot that I kind of landed. Yeah.
Wow.
And man, that was. That was fun. I mean, baseball. I mean, soccer got me there, but I think I love the game of baseball.
Who all was with you playing then?
Oh man, you had
Billy Ramirez.
Billy Ramirez is in left.
Boomer.
Riley was in center.
Yep.
Trying to Tommy Lavilla might have been.
Tommy Villa, yeah, that sounds right.
Might have been on the left.
Yeah.
You had Lobring behind the plate. You had Roundtree and Sean McCammon was at short.
Tony Bueller.
Tony Bueller was at short. And then I'm
second. Tony was at second.
Jeff Erickson maybe.
Erickson was at first. And then I know Ty. I thought Ty was there one year that I played. Was he at first?
He would have been your sophomore year. Tom Corona.
Tom Corona was a first baseman my sophomore year.
Okay.
And
that's right.
Yeah. So, and then I'm trying to. Tran Barger pitch.
Oh yeah.
Remember that curveball he used to throw?
Didn't he go on to play?
He did.
He did. Yeah.
He did. I know he played some minor league ball. I'm not sure if he ever made it up or not.
Okay.
But he would be one.
I thought that was the case.
He was a nasty left-handed.
Yeah, he had a good curveball.
Yeah.
Just nasty. Yeah.
Did you ever try to hit that, Danny?
Steve, you know me.
Okay.
I couldn't hit anything.
When you think of that era, that '87 era of who we played with or played against.
Right.
You look at Griffey was at Moeller, so we played against him. Buddy Bell's son, Bob Trumpy's son, Lee May Jr.
Yeah.
We played against Pete Rose's son. They were all high school at that time.
Yeah.
And we played against all those.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
Experience to play against them.
That's really cool.
That is crazy. Yeah. So with the baseball, I mean, that was I don't even remember how. I know our senior year we were 500 maybe.
What?
When we played, so it would have been his junior year in baseball. Was it about 500 then, or I don't even remember. What about your senior year? Were you guys pretty decent, or?
We were okay, but I don't think we didn't. I can't recall what the record was, but I think the highlight was we did beat Moeller our last game of the season, and I remember because Billy Ramirez did a home run.
Really?
That got us the winning run.
Nice.
Yeah, and that was
cool.
That was kind of like the end of the season. It was towards the end.
Okay.
One of the highlights is us beating Moeller.
That's really
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you also played some basketball. Talk a little bit about you played your senior year. I think you played played with Phil Sinkovich. Talk a little bit about playing that.
Sinkovich was great. I played freshman year, sophomore year. I had mono my junior year coming after the soccer season, and I was going to play, and I said I just got to get some rest and recover. So took some time off and kind of focused on soccer. But then I played senior year, and we were really bad. We were really bad. I think we went 0-10 or something. I don't know. We won one game, 2 games, I think.
What was it like, the contrast between Herman's and Cinco and more?
Yeah, I mean, Jack was all about the skill level.
Yeah.
And I think with Lynn, I think Mr. Moore was just understanding the game of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't recall too much teachings that we had, but he understood the game because he played, right?
Right.
And then Cinco was just he was great to play for.
Yeah.
He laid into me a couple times. I remember.
But he can never be mad at you.
No. That's the thing. I mean, if I saw him today, he'd give him a big hug.
Right.
But we had what was sad is that we really had some good athletes. Mm-hmm. That year. Yeah. Kenny Shelton was another guard.
Yeah.
Todd Riley. We had Jeff Richardson, Billy Ramirez. Caudill. Yeah, we had some. Jim Kelly.
Yeah.
We had, there was.
Greg Pappas.
Greg Pappy.
Pappy.
Sorry.
We had some really good talent. We just could never.
Chris Bates.
Did he play basketball?
He did. Yeah. We could just never muster up the wins that.
Well, you had a pretty tough schedule, if I remember right. I mean, I know they played in that thing that we played in that tournament with LaSalle and Green Hills, and I mean, so it was. I know you guys had a pretty loaded schedule.
I think it was Green Hills. That was the tallest I ever was. They announced me as a 5'8" guard.
Nice.
I'm like, holy.
But if I'm not mistaken, I think you played against Mick Cronin.
I I could have.
Well, he went to LaSalle.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure that next year he was playing.
He could. Yeah. I didn't follow the basketball.
Just say you
players.
shut him down, Jimmy.
Yeah, shut him down. Hey, I think Mick and I probably saw eye to eye.
So as you were going through like your junior year, obviously, and you started thinking about college.
Yeah.
How did that process work as far as recruiting and what your thoughts were going forward?
I tell you, it's totally different than today.
Sure.
But I got Soccer America magazine or newspaper sent to the house, and every month it would come, and I would sit there and read articles left and right, and they would always have the rankings of the college teams across the country, and I would just go down, and I'd start looking at where schools were ranked, and then I'd start kind of deciding, and really my heart was set on wanting to go south, and I looked at Davidson and South Carolina Coastal and some schools down there, and then Gannon came calling, and part of that was Greg Deutsch. So one of the things playing for Greg was, because he knew a lot of these college coaches, because he was selling equipment, but also he played professionally indoors. He had connections, and so Greg's like, "Look, you give me a list of the schools you're interested in, and I'll help you." And he was instrumental in getting the Gannon coach Rob Russo to come down and see me play.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Rob came down and saw me play at Beachmont Rec Club playing indoor.
Nice.
We were the Yukon Jacks.
That's funny.
We got our T-shirts at Velveteen.
I love it.
And the saying on the back was "always smooth, always potent." And that was our team. We were the Yukon Jacks.
Wow.
And he came down and saw me play, and then he's like, "Yeah, I want you to come up for a visit." So I went up, and what a great, overall, just a great experience.
Yeah.
Up there.
So what would you say the big difference was between the high school level and playing at Gannon?
Speed of the game and the size of the kids. Big. Our division up there at Gannon, we were Division II, but we were kind of the black and blue division because we were playing all the Great Lakes teams. So Oakland out of Michigan, that was one of our big rivals.
Sure.
Mercyhurst College was was right there in our backyard. They were our biggest rival. Lock Haven University in Pennsylvania. It was a ton of international players. There were 2 American starters on our team. It's myself and a goalkeeper.
Wow.
Everybody else were...
You're kidding me.
The goalkeeper was from Buffalo, and then I was from Cincinnati. We had 4 kids from Holland, a kid from Northern Ireland, a kid from Scotland, and 4 kids from South Africa. And Coach had connections, Rob Russo, and all these schools did.
Yeah.
All these schools we were playing international soccer Division II.
Yeah.
That's crazy. They were all like that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you recall the phone call I got when you were there?
The phone call you got when I was there? No.
Yeah. when you were there playing soccer, and I guess you were hanging out with others. And Chris Holland, who played basketball there.
Oh, yes.
And he played with
you at St. Clair.
Yeah.
That's right.
And he's calling me. He's like, "I'm here with Jimmy Down." I'm like, "What?"
Right. I forgot about Chris Holland.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. That's right.
Yeah. Is that where Kurt Larrabee went, too, wasn't he?
I don't know if Kurt did.
We had Manu Bull's brother played at Gannon.
No way.
He was 7'4".
Oh my gosh!
Taller than a rail.
No way.
Oh, he was. In fact, I played. It was so funny. We were playing some pickup games in the rec center, and he was playing with us, and he was on my team, and we were going down for a fast break, and I hit a hot pass to him, and it was But he was there. But Chris Holland, that's
Chris
a great
Holland.
call. I forgot about Chris.
I just got connected back to him with, obviously, like everybody does with Facebook, and he's got a little boy now, and he's going to grow up to be just like Chris and play basketball. Chris is a good guy.
That was going to the basketball games was fantastic. It was a small school. It was 4,500 kids. And so you didn't have. Erie, there were some cool things to do. As far as the nightlife goes on weekends, but going to support and the basketball program was a really good, really good program there. And we would, as in the off season, we were there. We'd work concessions. We'd get a chance to see.
Oh, that's cool.
Our mascot was Gumby.
Seriously?
We were the Golden Knights, but Gumby would dress up. And he would,
I love it.
Gumby would get at the top of the stairs in the bleachers, and he'd go all the way down on the stairs on his stomach.
That is great.
That's hilarious.
Great. We would have a great time, and we would get high school games, the Mercyhurst School, in some of the local high school teams, and then Oak Hill Academy would come.
Yeah, wow. Nice.
All these great academies would come in for a weekend tournament at Gannon.
Oh, okay. So you got to see some.
I probably saw some really great basketball players that probably went off to play college.
Yeah.
But at that time, I wasn't really paying attention to any of those kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just remember Oak Hill Academy would come in and play, and they would just.
Oh yeah, they were always good. Always good.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Did you play baseball at Gannon too?
I did. I played 1 year at Gannon. It's crazy. I wanted to play. I wanted to play more, but I wasn't sure because soccer was we were so dedicated. I mean, it was year round, basically, and I wanted to make sure kept up with studies and so forth. But I just remember walking down the hall one day. The baseball coach grabs my arm. He says, "The guy said you played baseball." And I'm like, "Yeah, I played." And he goes, "I need a second baseman. Tryouts are such and such. Be there." I'm like, "Okay." and I didn't have a glove or anything, so I had to go to the sporting goods store in the area. Bought a glove and showed up at practice, and I ended up starting at second base.
Did you really? Is that your last year, your senior year?
Junior year.
Junior year.
I didn't play. I'm like, I'm done.
At that point.
But but up there, I mean, heck, it was April, May, and we're trying to play games in snow.
Yeah, right.
We made 2 road trips down to the Carolinas and into Georgia.
Smart move.
Two different road trips, and we'd play like 8 to 10 games down there in like February, March, just to get games in because we were still practicing in a gym.
Right.
When guys were out. A lot of
that's crazy. So I'm not sure if this is accurate or not. I think Moose threw this out to me. We know that you're in the Anderson Hall of Fame. Is it true that you recently were inducted in the Gannon Hall of Fame?
Yeah, 2015.
No kidding.
Our 1989 team was inducted in.
That's great.
Cool. We were number 1 team in the country at the time, and we went to 2 Final Fours. We played in 3 NCAA tournaments, made it our sophomore year to the Final 8, and then eventually got beat, and then. Junior year, we made it to the Final Four and got beat by UNC Greensboro.
Oh wow!
And then my senior year, we got beat by I think it was Seattle Pacific down at Florida Institute of Technology. They were hosting the tournament, and we lost to them.
Wow. That's pretty cool, man. That's a great accomplishment.
Congratulations.
2 Hall of Fames. Cool. I mean, that's pretty cool.
It was cool. It was great to go up in 15 to see some of the old guys that were there, and some of those guys that I played with are in the Hall of Fame at Gannon on their own. Like our goalkeeper, he made it in. Our defensive back, Gary Smallshaw, made it in. I think Troy Bingham might have made it in. I mean, we had our coach made it in.
That's pretty cool
because he had such a stellar career when he coached at Miami.
Oh really?
Yeah, so he was at Miami for a little bit, and then eventually went up to Gannon. And then after I think it was a year or so after we left, he went down to Spartansburg and then kind of made his way. I think he's up in Columbus now at Denison. Or actually, he's retired now, so he recently just retired. But
wow.
He had a great career, but
that's really cool.
That's awesome, man. That is great.
A lot of fun.
That's
great.
So, all right. So, I want to ask you and tell us about your family. So, you married into another Anderson family,
I did.
And then I want to hear about all your siblings that went through Anderson as well.
Oh yeah.
So, give us a report.
We are, a lifelong Anderson Redskins. I can say Redskins.
Yes, you can on this show, especially.
We are Redskins. So Betsy lived in Summit Estates.
There it is.
Went to elementary school with her. Started going to Summit with her maybe in 5th grade, and then off in junior high and high school, and we started kind of dating our junior year in high school, and eventually got married. She went off to Bowling Green and got her master's in speech and language, and So that was that was in '94. So I've been married ever since.
All right, and kids.
So 3 kids. So Jake's the oldest.
Okay.
Jake graduated from University of Kentucky recently in 2020. So he's doing really well. Lives across the river in Bellevue.
Okay.
Bought a house over there. Works for Fisher.
I was gonna say he's a realtor. Tell you something with Fisher.
New home construction for Fisher.
Cool.
And then Nick's playing baseball at Bluffton University.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Do that one.
About a couple hours north. And then Madeline is technically she's a junior at Tennessee, but I mean she just finished her freshman year. So because she took college courses, accelerated classes at Claremont, she went in as a sophomore.
How about that?
That's awesome.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So she's going to follow in Betsy's footsteps and go into speech. And,
good.
So
good for her.
Get her master's.
Good for her.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And your siblings?
Yeah. So
go ahead. Let's start.
No more.
Marie, the oldest, set the groundwork. I think she graduated in '79 at Anderson.
Yeah.
Joe was in '80.
Okay.
Rick was in I think '81.
All right.
Tony was '83.
Yep.
I was '87.
Yep.
And John was '89.
89.
Yeah.
Wow.
So and they're all here. Everybody's back here in the city.
And your mom and dad?
And mom and dad are doing fantastic.
That's awesome.
I see them out and about. They look great.
Yes.
They are doing. Dad finally retired after he turned 80, and he's like, okay, it's time to retire.
80.
So I just sat with them on Sunday, went over and kind of hung with them for a little bit, and my mom's like, yeah, I'm supposed to play golf tomorrow, and the rain doesn't come, so they're both playing golf. I mean, they have their group of guys, and they go down and they play golf, and so they're doing really, really well.
Well, I want to tell you something. I know one of your brother-in-laws I was really close to there for a while was George Baran. So that's just awesome. You got George George Baran.
George Francis Baran.
George and I were really close in high school. We used to go camping with him all the time with his family, and it's kind of cool that he's your brother-in-law. I mean, he's a great dude.
What's really cool is that we grew up. I grew up with George,
right?
And my brothers grew up with his brothers.
Right.
Our families grew up
right around the corner from
right around the corner. Literally right around the corner.
Yeah.
And so he was like family. So he married Jenny, the oldest, Betsy's oldest.
Dated since high school.
They
were high school sweethearts.
Well.
Wow.
Yeah. Absolutely. Dated since high school. And then Kristen married Scott Carr out of, he went to Walsh Jesuit. He played football with Mike Brable.
Oh, wow.
So they were best friends. Mike was in his wedding, and they still have in contact today. And so George has 3, and then Kristen and Scott have 3. So it's
and I know you're
Nana and Pop-Up.
They're doing great. They're doing great too. Yeah.
They are troopers.
I'm gonna tell you something. One of the most loyal listeners we have on Friday nights for football games is Mr. Vogel.
Oh yeah.
I am not lying. Every single game, he emails me, tells me he's down in Hilton Head, listening to the game, watching the game. He'll tell me my sound's horrible. He comments also. He's just a big time listener.
He is. They are
loyal
fans of Anderson.
Absolutely.
Football.
Great family.
I mean, growing up in Cincinnati and growing up in the Anderson Township community has just been fantastic. I mean, I lived in Louisville for a little bit. I lived in Indianapolis for 8 years before we moved back. But the community that we live in is fantastic. We're fortunate.
We definitely are. Yeah, we definitely are. So, do you still keep in touch with some guys from high school, or?
You know what? Only really through Facebook, and the same with even the college guys. I mean, we'll throw some stuff out there to one another from time to time.
Right.
Yeah.
For the most part. No, I mean, I keep in touch with your brother.
Yeah.
I mean,
just because all the sports.
We coached together.
That's right.
For so long.
Yeah.
I mean, our kids are the same age. So, so I keep in touch with them from time to time, but most of it's through Facebook.
Well, I think that's really cool is that your boys and Ryan played ball together, and real close, and they're still close. They still play softball together. That's right. I know that. So it's kind of cool.
Is he on that team with
Daniel Ryan, and
oh my gosh,
and Ben, all those guys that play baseball together. That those guys coach.
Hilarious.
Yeah, they had me come up and be the coach. They wanted me to play, and I was like, absolutely not. I'm not playing. No way. I'll coach third base.
That's me too. I'm like, no, I'm not. No. I'm done playing.
Maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah, I would have 20 years ago.
Exactly.
So let's do what kind of how we end the show always. So I'm going to kind of put you on a spot here, but let's talk about your favorite high school memory, your favorite college memory, and then maybe like a favorite teacher that you had at Anderson. So let's start off with high school. What's your favorite high school memory?
High school, probably as far as soccer goes. I mean, that was it. But I remember one time I scored and my brother John scored.
Oh, that's cool.
There you go.
That's
against
cool.
Turpin.
That's cool.
So the newspaper, I think the next morning said Diana 2, Turpin nothing.
Oh, that's cool.
So
that is cool.
I think
that's a great memory.
I still have that. That article.
That's really cool.
That was really,
that's a great memory.
That's a great memory.
Really cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Soccer at Gannon. Gannon. I mean, so many great memories. But just playing in the Final Four 2 years in a row. Was great, but I scored the game-winning goal against Oakland University in the playoffs.
Did you?
Nice.
And yeah, it was, and I to this day I can see it clearly. I mean, it was a cross that came from some. I think it was probably Marco that sent the ball across, and Peter Campbell, who was in my wedding, kid from Northern Ireland, got it off his head, and I had a volley and it was the game winner.
That's awesome.
It wasn't that we didn't end the game, but it was in overtime, and so it's just that was probably pretty cool.
That's
awesome.
Gotta be really cool. Yeah. Going back to high school, Jimmy, do you remember? Have any idea how many goals you scored?
I want to, for some reason, I think it's around 50 to 55 goals over my career. Over my career. And I didn't have near that many. I only had maybe a half dozen to a dozen in college because I was more of a midfielder. And eventually I became a defensive midfielder, and then eventually I played kind of an attacking fullback position. So the coach kind of utilized me in a different way. We had what I'd call the Dutchies. They were, they were our frontline guys.
That's what about what about a teacher? You had any favorite teachers at Anderson, or?
Oh man, I had. I probably had. I thought Loudenslager. I liked Loudenslager. Yeah. I think if I'm.
Yeah, Loudenslager. Yeah.
He was always good. I remember. I think it was Mr. Heimball. Said that there was going to be a short teachers meeting after school for Mr. Erdman and Mr. Ellis.
For Pat Ellis, that's funny. That's a good one. That's funny. That's a good one.
I mean, Heimball Hannigan was good. I mean, they were probably pretty good.
Yeah,
you know who I miss? I miss Mr. Williams.
Yeah, you know what?
From middle school.
Well, he was a gym teacher at high school for.
Williams was?
Bob Williams?
No, I thought it was Williams was a gym teacher.
Neiman?
There was Neiman.
Maybe it was Mr. Neiman?
Because Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah, older gentleman.
Yeah, it was Neiman. It was probably Neiman.
Jim Neiman.
I remember him as, he was always a good dude.
He loves sport. He played baseball at UC.
Okay.
He was a big sports guy.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think Williams just did, what was it,
English.
Math or social stuff.
Come on, man. The verbs.
I think I couldn't even,
Everybody knows the verbs.
Not me.
Yeah. High school's so far removed, but man,
I know.
We had some
great teachers. I mean, back in the day, Mrs. Coleman, and we've talked about a lot of these.
Yeah,
Miss Coleman, Mr. Grooms.
Yeah, Grooms. I had him for speech. That's right.
I loved him.
Yeah, that was probably one of the best classes that I ever took.
I agree.
Speech.
People have said that.
I agree. I felt the same way.
Yeah.
He was the way he did it and how he handled the class was just, I loved him.
And the fact that you have to get up there in front of your class and talk in front of your peers, and it was just I would always encourage our kids if they had a speech class, if there was one available, to take it.
Sure.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. So it's pretty awesome, Jim. We really appreciate you taking time. We got to probably wrap this thing up. Really appreciate it. So thanks for joining us, Jimmy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. So for Dan Albert, Steve Ellis, and Jimmy Diana, you've been watching This Week in Anderson. We'll catch you next week.